The sun rose over the rolling hills of my ranch, casting a golden glow across the dew-kissed grass. The land stretched wide, serene, and unbothered by boundaries. This was my sanctuary, a place where the wind whispered freedom, and the earth beneath my feet felt like an extension of my own being. Here, under the vast, open sky, I had no need for walls or artificial borders. Nature itself was the only law I recognized. But the quiet was deceptive. Beyond the hills lurked the gated uniformity of the suburban enclave, a world wrapped in white picket fences and governed by the iron fist of the homeowners association. It wasn't long before the boundaries of my peaceful life were breached by the unnecessary pomp of HOA regulations. They had decided that my land fell within their jurisdiction, a mistake I was bound to correct. Karen was the herald of their encroachment. She arrived one day, a whirlwind of pastel pantsuits and cloying perfumes. Her eyes scanned my property with the precision of a hawk searching for prey. She was here to deliver an edict, to claim my free land for her little kingdom of rules. But her eyes betrayed more than just duty. There was entitlement there, an insidious edge of greed. I nodded politely as she spoke, her voice a staccato of legalities and community standards. The words were filled with the hollow authority of someone who believed they were a sheriff in this suburban Wild West. My responses were calm, a river resisting the urge to flood. I listened as the sun climbed higher, warming the earth and casting long shadows that mirrored her intentions. Her first move was petty. A letter appeared in my mailbox, stamped with the emblem of the HOA. It was a list of grievances, each as absurd as the last. Grass too high, fences not in compliance, animals not within code. Each line was a testament to her determination to bend the land to her will. It was as if she thought that words alone could tame the wild. I took a deep breath. The air was rich with the scent of earth and life, grounding me in the here and now. I wanted to laugh, but instead, I simply folded the letter and tucked it away. A reminder of her hubris. The land was mine, and no amount of paper would change that. Life continued its rhythmic dance, the ranch unfazed by human folly. I went about my days, tending to the animals, each task a meditation. With every breath, I heard the silent hum of unity between the land and me, a partnership that transcended any man-made decree. Karen's actions were a storm in a teacup. I maintained my calm, knowing that the strength of the ranch was not in its conformity, but in its defiance. The fences I envisioned in the back of my mind were not just barriers, they were statements. They would stand as a testament to resilience, a physical manifestation of my refusal to be penned in by suburban small-mindedness. As the days passed, I prepared, not with declarations or threats, but with quiet resolve. The ranch would remain as it always had, a place where nature reigned supreme, and when the time came, my response would be as natural as the sunrise, a counterbalance to the encroaching darkness of conformity. The land waited, patient and timeless, for the moment when the fences would bite back. The morning sun glimmered through the trees, casting long shadows across the dew-kissed grass of my ranch. Serenity, though, was but a whisper on the wind, barely discernible amid the distant hum of a brewing storm. The storm had a name, Karen. Her fury was not unlike a summer squall, sudden and unrelenting. I had awoken to the sight of another letter pinned to my front gate, its presence as ominous as a wolf prowling around the edges of a campfire. This letter, like its predecessors, bore the letterhead of the HOA, but had Karen's fingerprints all over it, the ink as dark as her resolve. The language convoluted, yet unmistakably sharp. Absurd rules. They tumbled from the page like an avalanche, each sentence laden with unreasonable demands. Grass must not exceed 2 inches, no structures without approval, no farm animals. I imagined Karen's eyes gleaming with satisfaction as she penned each line, a general strategizing her next move in a battle of attrition. The citations followed, each more baffling than the last, for infractions as imaginary as a child's invisible friend. Noise disturbance, the clucking of hens at dawn, visual clutter, a tractor in the driveway. Her world, painted in broad strokes of control and conformity, sought to smother the vibrant chaos that was life on a ranch. And then, the gossip. It spread like a contagion, infecting the HOA members, their whispered conversations carrying on the wind. Did you hear? Such a shame. Needs to be put in place. They were Karen's apostles, spreading her gospel of dissatisfaction. But I remained calm, the eye in her storm of pettiness. I chuckled at the irony, her attempts to tame the untamable, to box in the uncontainable. My ranch, a living testament to freedom. And Karen, its self-proclaimed warden. The HOA meetings became a theater of the absurd, a stage for Karen's dramatics. She would stand, her voice a clarion call, every word a challenge, every syllable a declaration of her intent to civilize the wild. Her eyes would dart around the room, seeking validation, and finding it in nodding heads and murmured agreements. Yet, there was a resilience in my silence. It frustrated her. I could tell. She thrived on opposition, on responses stirred by emotion and heat, but I offered her none. I simply watched, an island of tranquility, in her ocean of fervor. The fences I planned were not just physical barriers. They were symbols, symbols of resistance, of boundaries drawn not just on land but in spirit. They would bite back not with malice, but with resolve. I envisioned them rising, tall and unyielding, each post a testament to the land's rightful keeper. Karen's escalation was both amusing and tragic, a testament to the futility of her crusade. The land was alive, as untamed as the winds that swept across it, and I, its steward, stood firm against the tide, knowing that fences, once erected, would hold a silent promise, a boundary that even the fiercest storm could not breach. The sun climbed higher, its light spilling over the horizon like hope. I watched the shadows retreat, the ranch breathing in its warmth. Karen's storm was fierce, but storms pass, the land endures, and so would I. In the silence that followed, a single bird took flight, its wings cutting through the air with effortless grace. For a moment, I envied its freedom, but then smiled, knowing that my roots ran deep, keeping me grounded amid chaos. The ranch was mine, a truth as unassailable as the rising sun. Dealing with the HOA felt like trying to untangle a nest of vipers, each move more venomous, each slither more slippery. They had sunk their fangs into my peace, gnawing at the edges of my ranch with their endless rules and thinly veiled threats. But unlike them, I had no interest in a war of attrition. I had a different weapon patience. The day Linda, the president of the HOA brigade, marched up my driveway with a stack of ominous papers, I knew it was time to act. There was a gleam in her eyes that spoke of conquest, her steps like a drumbeat of impending doom. I watched from my porch, feeling the soft creak of the wooden boards beneath me, every step a reminder of the land that was mine. She handed me the papers with a smile that dripped with feigned sweetness. I could see the tiny print, the legal jargon meant to ensnare and intimidate. They wanted my land. They wanted boundaries erased, replaced by their neatly drawn lines. But what they failed to understand was that fences, like stories, can have layers. I had been documenting everything, meticulously, every interaction, every veiled threat, each seemingly benign note left in my mailbox. I had built a fortress of evidence, a tapestry of truths that they couldn't unravel with their petty claims. Inside my house, in a snug corner of my study, rested the real power, a file, thicker than any of their contracts, photographs, timestamps, recordings, each a brushstroke on the canvas of my defense. I was prepared to lay it bare, to let the weight of their own arrogance crush them under its truth. The local planning office had become a second home, its walls echoing with the whispers of underhanded deals and neighborhood politics. I filed my own papers, strategic countermeasures that mapped out my land with precision, my ranch, my sanctuary, marked by my own hand, protected by the law that they wielded so carelessly. When the day came for the hearing, I walked into that room with quiet confidence. The air was thick with anticipation, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like a swarm of restless bees. Linda sat smugly, surrounded by her cadre of enforcers, their expressions a tapestry of self-satisfied certainty. I presented my case with calm clarity, the evidence a symphony of irrefutable facts. Each piece revealed their overreach, their attempts to encroach on my freedom. The room fell silent, the weight of truth settling like dust on an old shelf. I watched their expressions shift, the dawning realization unraveling their composure. Linda's eyes flickered with something between anger and disbelief. She knew. I could see it. The game had changed, and the board had flipped. Later, as I walked back to my truck, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of defiant orange and resilient purple. Victory tasted like the crisp air of my open fields, untouched and untamed. The fences I'd built withstood their assault, not just the literal ones, but those I'd erected around my life, my land. In the end, I didn't need to shout my triumph from the rooftops. The silence of the defeated spoke louder than words. As I drove away, the gravel crunched beneath my tires, a comforting sound. My ranch, biting back with every turn of the wheel. The biting fences glistened in the tentative morning light, their ominous presence casting long shadows over the dew-drenched ground. The previous day, the workers had finished installing the final row of barbed wire, a silent testament to the defiance that had been simmering beneath the surface. For too long, I stood at the edge of my ranch, my hand caressing the cool metal strands. They hummed with energy, a low buzz that felt like the whisper of a storm gathering strength. The neighbors had started to notice the changes. Curiosity, like the moth drawn to a flame, led them to the edges of their own yards, eyes squinting against the sun to catch a glimpse of my newfound fortress. I could feel their questions hanging in the air, the unspoken murmurs weaving through the neighborhood like a persistent, nosy wind. From the corner of my vision, I caught sight of Mr. Thompson, a retired banker with a penchant for morning walks. He paused at the end of my driveway, his brow furrowed with a mix of confusion and intrigue. I imagined the gears in his mind grinding against each other slowly, trying to process the change that had emerged overnight like a mushroom after the rain. He lingered for a moment longer before continuing on his path, the crunch of gravel under his feet echoing in the morning stillness. Tension was a living thing here now. A third resident hidden amongst the mailboxes and manicured lawns. It snaked through the cul-de-sac, feeding on the silent disapproval of those who had grown comfortable in the rigidity of their suburban existence. The HOA had always been a pillar of predictability, a monolith of conformity that brooked no deviation. My fences, with their unapologetic presence, threatened to upheave that fragile semblance of order. I watched as Mrs. Whitaker, a woman whose sun hat always matched the color of her hydrangeas, stood at her window, her silhouette framed by lace curtains. Her eyes were shadowed pools of judgment, parsing out the meaning behind my actions. She, too, had felt the stirrings of rebellion but had always been pulled back by the invisible chains of neighborly expectations. Her gaze lingered, perhaps considering the weight of her own concessions. The day wore on, and with it, the whispers grew louder as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of burnt orange. I felt a shift. The air was thicker, heavy with anticipation. The fences stood resolute, a testament to my refusal to yield. They were more than barriers. They were boundaries not just of land, but of resolve and identity. In the quiet of the evening, as stars blinked into existence one by one, I sat on the porch, a mug of coffee cradled in my hands. The warmth seeped into my fingers, a comforting contrast to the chill creeping into the night air. Across the way, lights flickered on in the neighboring houses, a mosaic of domesticity punctuated by the occasional silhouette crossing a window. A low rumble rolled through the night, the sound of a vehicle approaching. It was the unmistakable, self-assured hum of Karen's SUV. She had come to inspect, to confront the physical manifestation of a challenge to her domain. I remained still, allowing the moment to unfold. The irony of it all not lost on me. Here she was, seeking control, yet confronted by the very limits of her power. As the vehicle's lights cast an accusatory spotlight on the fences, I felt a curious sense of peace. The fences did not just bite back. They defended, they defined, they declared, without words, that this land was my own, unyielding and untamed. Morning light seeped through the curtains, casting long shadows over the ranch's wooden floors. Those boards, seasoned by years of footfalls and echoes of stories, were my silent witnesses as I prepared for the day. Every creak and groan underfoot felt like an affirmation of resilience, a quiet reminder that this land was mine, not the HOA's. Outside, the fences stood tall and unapologetic, their presence a testament to cautious defiance. Each post, driven deep into the earth, spoke volumes about boundaries, an unyielding line drawn against encroachment. They were not mere barriers of wood and wire, but statements of intent, tangible manifestations of a will not easily swayed. The HOA's most recent letter lay on the kitchen table, its officious tone trying to masquerade as formality beneath a thin veneer of civility. But beneath that layer, I read the unspoken, a threat wrapped in legal jargon, a desperate attempt to assert control over what was never theirs. My fingers grazed over its surface absent-mindedly, feeling the raised letters as if they were braille spelling out the absurdity of their claims. Instead of responding with fury or fear, I'd taken a quieter path. Silence was my ally, patience my strategy. I'd consulted a lawyer whose demeanor matched my own, a cool, calculating mind hidden behind unassuming eyes. Together, we crafted a plan as meticulous as a watchmaker's art. Papers were filed quietly, a counterclaim unrolling like the careful unfurling of a predator's coil. The irony was not lost on me that while they believed they were tightening a noose, I was laying the groundwork for their own entrapment. Legal documents were my new fences, each clause a sharpened spike, each counterpoint a hidden trap waiting for an unwary step. The beauty was in the details, the precision of language that turned their aggressive advance into a retreat. As I walked the perimeter of my land, the sun now fully risen, the morning air was a balm, crisp with possibilities. The fences were silent sentinels, guardians of a legacy more enduring than the transient authority of an HOA board. Beyond them, the land stretched out with indifference to the petty squabbles of humanity, its permanence a comforting constant. In a week, the hearing would unfold, a staged drama where truth would finally step into the spotlight. Until then, I maintained my calm, a serene facade over simmering anticipation. The lawyer had assured me of a favorable outcome, the legal equivalent of an inevitable sunrise. Soon, those who sought to bind me with their paper chains would find themselves ensnared in a web of their own making. I envisioned the moment when the gavel would strike, a sound resonating with finality, like the closing notes of a symphony composed of justice and irony. Perhaps then, the HOA would understand the cost of their folly, the price of underestimating the quiet power of a rancher with roots sunk deep into her land. For now, I was content to watch the shadows lengthen and recede over the ranch, knowing that soon my fences wouldn't need to bite back. They'd simply stand as they always had, quiet, strong, and undeniably mine. The soft glow of dawn seeped through the clouds, casting a serene light over the ranch, peaceful, yet paradoxically brimming with the echoes of last night's rabble. The boundaries were clear, now fences that symbolized not just separation, but clarity and resolve. These were no ordinary fences. They were artisans of accountability, demanding respect with their quiet, unyielding presence. The news had spread like wildfire. Karen's ambitious claims had finally been dismantled, her meticulously constructed tower of influence crumbling under the weight of truth and audacity. The community that once danced to her discordant tune had awoken to its own melody, rediscovering harmony in the newfound autonomy. Reflections were as clear as the morning sky. The barricades, crafted with care, not only guarded the land but mirrored the determination that had been forged in the crucible of conflict, each post a testament, each wire a line drawn in the sand. These were defenses that whispered rather than shouted, yet their message was unmistakable. A gentle breeze stirred the fields, carrying with it the scent of renewal. The ranch appeared larger in the golden light, an illusion perhaps, or maybe a revelation of its true expanse now freed from the shadows of contention. Nature knew no boundaries, yet respected those drawn with integrity. Karen, sidelined but unbowed, had retreated to her fortress of certitude. Her influence had waned, reduced to murmurs in the background. The once booming voice now a mere echo. She was a figure in the distance, outlined against the horizon. Her presence felt more in absence than proximity. Her weapon, the pen, lay unused, her strategies overplayed. I watched as neighbors gathered, tentative at first, around the perimeter. What once was an arena of dispute had transformed into a space of dialogue. There were no declarations, no grand speeches, just the quiet acknowledgement of understanding. A collective sigh of relief in shared glances and nods. They drifted closer, curious but cautious, like deer at the edge of a clearing. The land had always been generous, and now it was shared anew. A community meeting was born from the ashes of animosity, a testament to resilience. It was unstructured, organic. Voices mingled with the rustling leaves as ideas sprouted, not to divide, but to cultivate. For the first time, laughter threaded through the air, not the brittle, nervous kind, but genuine, buoyant. It lingered, weaving through the trees, carried on the wings of hope. Even the birds seemed to join in, their calls harmonizing with the human chorus below. I felt a profound shift within, a release of tension that had knotted itself into the fabric of life here. The fences had indeed bitten back, but not with malice. They had bitten gently, like a teacher guiding a wayward pupil back to the path. The lesson was learned. The sun climbed higher, bathing the ranch in warmth. The fences stood firm, delineating not just territory, but a renewed sense of purpose. Karen's legacy, a cautionary tale, faded into the tapestry of the past. The silhouette on the horizon remained, but its influence had dwindled to insignificance. In the end, the ranch was not just land. It was a testament to the spirit that could not be claimed nor conquered, a quiet sanctuary reclaimed by its rightful stewards. And as the day unfolded, the fences continued their silent vigil, guardians of a peace hard won.